Fabric is so like fragile, it's so tactile, right? It moves, it stretches, it has awkward edges, it's imperfect. And that's what I'm so into it. My world has never been perfect. My name is Hangama Amiri. I'm an artist and I work with fabric and textile. I was originally born in Peshawar, Pakistan, and that was during the civil war that my parents were migrating, and we ended up in Kabul. There was like a small market or bazaar, I call it, and that one of my uncle, his tailor shop was in that bazaar too. So when I really look back, that tailor shop was like the most happiest point, because every morning before going to my school, I would stop by at his tailor shop and be introduced to his crafts and art, and to see these fabrics that he had, like white, beige, cream, and the sounds of scissors. So I think these were like the most happiest I had. I have this memory of going to school and suddenly I would see like teachers and students be in a very worrisome moment. And that was the time that everyone was just like listening to the radio. And the radio were preaching rules that women are not allowed to go to schools and women are not allowed to work. A few of my aunts were teachers in that school as well. So I would go to them and be like, what's going on, like what's happening? And they would say like, yeah, schools will shut down soon and me and you will not be allowed to go back. I think burqa was a mandatory, those times, like the blue burqa. Basic rights were taken away from women, such as nail polish. And women were not allowed to be beautiful for some reason. And no shiny fabrics, because it will distract the male gaze. For me, growing up, seeing these evidence and seeing my mom slowly not wearing this beautiful, colorful nail polish, it was sad. I feel like my mother is one of my role models in my life. She went to these countries all by herself, actually, because my father was seeking refuge in European countries. So there was that time gap in between. Halifax, Nova Scotia was like our second home, and that was our first contact to Western world. I did painting for like more than 14 years, but I've always had this sort of like a battle of connection. Why am I so invested painting cultural materials through using this medium, but why not using actual material? The only agency that I had as a young girl was these scraps of cloths. I remember used to make small dolls with my cousins. So that was my access to the art world. And that's how it all became to be these tapestry sort of textile pieces that I'm making today. I make images that look like painting, but they're not painting. They're more softer, they're more seductive. I work sections by sections, not all at once. So once they're being sewn by machine, they all come together as a puzzle to make the image. So this whole process really connects who I am. I'm like full of these little patches and events in history. And these patches or fabrics also comes from these countries that I lived. So it's very demographic. It brings that demography landscape in my work, in my process. The entire installation has 11 works suspended from the ceiling, and each work depicts a still life. And these still life are either found, either being pointed at, or either being reconciled. There were a lot of internal displacement when the Taliban, took over. So a lot of people end up selling their domestic objects for an economic issues. So seeing those sort of reality from afar away and seeing myself as a diaspora artist, I've also been in search of these lost objects. I really wanted the installation to have this idea of like dance, this idea of like moving through the images. You somehow find yourself in between life, in between these objects that I'm presenting. Also trying to point at certain objects in order to be touched, in order to reach out, in order to be remembered. So that's the gesture that I'm bringing. The pieces have hands, and the majority of hands has this beautiful red nail polish. And they're very shiny because I use the silk or polyester that kind of reflects light. And when I mention quiet resistance, it's because using such symbolism or like beauty decoration that we use, such as nail polish, it really goes back to those times that I would see my mom not wearing nail polish anymore because those basic needs were taken away from them because of the Taliban regime. So that's what I call it, very quiet resistant. It's the material is very soft, the material is very tangible, but also the shininess. It kind of goes back to that as a weapon to fight back.